Hey guys, Scourge McDuck or SMD here, bringing you my personal list of the top 5 carries for patch 7.19. A few common themes you will notice with the safe lane this patch is that aggressive dual laners are often very popular, with a big emphasis on denying range creeps. That is why supports like Crystal Maiden and Winter Wyvern are very popular this patch in my opinion, as they can help you secure the range creeps by using their nukes, so even though you're not getting the gold, they're still getting the gold, so the gold is going to your team, and the fact that the enemies aren't denying it will give you that experience that you might really desperately need on some of these carries versus these aggressive dual off lanes. Another theme that you'll notice is a lot of the true 1 positions are mid heroes like TA, Storm, Invoker, Potom, Huskar, Lina, and Tiny, so generally carries that don't take up too much space are better in this patch. But to start off the list with number 5, we have Spectre, and like I just said, a lot of the true carries are mid heroes, so you want a carry that doesn't take up too much space, but Spectre is a hero that doesn't need a lot of space and a lot of items, but the way people are playing it right now is slightly differently than it was played in the past. Instead of rushing Radiance as your first major item, people are often buying either a Hood or a Vanguard, and then a Blade Mail, or just a Blade Mail only, and then going into an item like a Manta style. And they're often taking their Desolate damage talent at level 10. So Manta synergizes very nice with that. You're getting basically 30 extra pure damage every single attack with that Manta style, and obviously Manta style gives a decent amount of agility, giving you more attack speed, so those attacks with the 30 extra pure damage coming out from the 2 illusions with your talent are going to be coming that much more often. And the reason for the Blade Mail is that people are maxing Dispersion now instead of their Desolate second after their Spectral Dagger. And the reason for that is Blade Mail reflects damage before reductions. So if you have 22% damage reduction, like max Dispersion, you will be still reflecting the full damage that the spells would do to you, whether or not you had that 22% damage reflected, while taking 22% less damage and also reflecting that damage because of the way Dispersion works. So you're dealing a ton of AoE damage on everyone who casts any abilities on you if you have a Blade Mail activated with max Dispersion in the middle of a team fight. So you're very tanky with max Dispersion. With Manta style, you do a ton of damage with your level 10 talent, giving you 15 extra Desolate damage and the attack speed that it provides. So even though Spectre is a hero that scales really well into the late game, I think with this new item build that people are doing, you can still play it very effectively in this patch. Coming in at number 4, we have Bloodseeker, who is another hero who is a little harder scaling than some of the other heroes on this list. But with that said, it's sort of a good thing in a way, as his laning is good enough, so the fact that he scales kind of well gets cancelled out by the fact that his laning is good. You're not really sacrificing your laning like you are with a hero like Spectre, for example. So Spectre's sort of weak in the lane, whereas Bloodseeker's somewhat strong in the lane and also scales well. So it's a pretty good balance, and he doesn't need that many items or that much space. You can go for the Blade Mail into BKB, similarly to how Spectre has been buying Blade Mails often. And you can also buff up a carry mid, so if you do have a TA on your team and you are Bloodseeker, you can buff him up so his damage is more. So you're still sort of enabling him to deal more damage, and you're not really being the true 1 position in that sense. But if you do have a more traditional mid, say like a Puck or a Quap, then you can still play Bloodseeker as the true 1 position if you're given a good start, and you can go for items like Radiance and then scale back into BKBs and Manta styles and things like that. So he's a pretty versatile hero. He can also go to multiple lanes, which is another common theme that you'll probably notice through some of these heroes, as he's been played in the off lane in the past few months by players like S4 and Chalice. He's been played in mid by players like Armel and Abed, and he's been played in the safe lane by almost all carry players at high level. So he's a pretty versatile hero who can go to multiple lanes, and he can scale decently while also being able to play more of a 2 position and buff up carry heroes that are playing in the mid lane, and go for more aggressive items like Blade Mails and Black King bars. The third hero on my list of top 5 carries for this patch would be Drow, and Drow is quite the weak hero in lane. Even Spectre, who's considered one of the weaker laners and one of the hardest scaling carries, has a nuke that he can use to help secure range creeps, so you're not losing out on that experience in gold. But Drow Ranger has no real way to secure the range creep last hits in the lane, so it's often common that you will be getting out leveled in the lane. That's why Drow synergizes very nicely with some of these common supports like Crystal Maiden or Winter Wyvern, who can basically use their nukes to secure every range creep for the lane, as Drow is way less gold reliant than the first 2 heroes on this list, but way more level reliant. And you aren't that good at denying or last hitting until you're level 6, but once you are level 6 for the rest of the laning stage, whether that be at minute 6 and you only lane until minute 10, or whether that be at minute 5 if you are having a really fast level 6 and then you continue to lane until like minute 13, you'll be able to basically get every last hit and every deny with that level 6. And the main purpose of having Drow as your carry in this patch would be to buff up your other lanes by giving them that Drow aura and making it so they're able to basically win 2 lanes hopefully. And that's why it's only number 3 on this list, is because in pub games it's going to be less reliable of a strategy, whereas Bloodseeker and Spectre are also both decent in lane, with Spectre's ability to nuke the range creeps and high tankiness with that maxed out dispersion build that's been popular. and Bloodseeker has that built-in sustain with his Blood Rage. But Drow is really weak in the lane, and the biggest strength of Drow's laning is that you're buffing up your other 2 lanes to hopefully win their lanes hard enough that you can recover once you do get that level 6. But with that said, Drow doesn't scale as hard as all of the other heroes on this list, and is also reliant on your team to win those other 2 lanes with your aura. So if you end up losing your lane, or even if you end up winning your lane, you can have some issues if your other lanes have lost. Coming in at number 2 on my list, I have Ursa, who is a very strong hero in laning. Once again, he can be played in the off lane, which is somewhat common nowadays with S4s and Chalices and Xin Qs, playing them with great success at TI, while also being common in the mid lane versus some melee heroes, and being played by most players in the safe lane as well. Or some safe lane players, carry players like Arteezy, will even go to the off lane with his 4 position player, and then play Ursa there as well. And he's just very strong at laning, especially against some of these other common heroes on this list, like Spectre and Bloodseeker, who I've already mentioned. He can lane very strong against them, so he can be played as a 3 position, or the 1 position can basically go into an aggro lane with a support, and then lane against those heroes and be able to shut them down very nicely. While also being one of the best Roshan takers in the game, so if you ever do get a bit of an advantage, you can sneak into Rosh Pit and take it, or if you ever win a team fight, you and your team can just take it down very quickly, giving your team even more experience in gold. And he's just very strong in the lane, and if you watch Arteezy play the hero especially, you'll notice how sometimes, if he is laning against a Spectre or something like that, he'll just basically run at the hero and make it so they're not farming, but he's not farming, and have his support sort of take the last hits and denies in the lane. So the support's basically acting as the carry, denying the wave back and getting all the last hits, where the Ursa is basically zoning the enemy. So even though the Ursa isn't getting that much farm in the lane, the Spectre is basically getting no farm at all, and the Ursa is getting some farm. And it's more important for a Spectre to have items than an Ursa. So another thing that I said was one of the common themes is you want heroes that don't take up too much space, and Ursa is one of those heroes that can do a lot with only a few items. You only really need a Blink and a Basher to play the hero, and you can kill basically any hero on the enemy team with those 2 items. Also, similarly to Spectre and somewhat Bloodseeker with his W if you want to skill that up early, which is somewhat common at levels 3 or 4, Ursa has another way to secure those range creeps with his nuke as well. Even though it is somewhat low damage, it should be enough. You can attack the creep and then instantly use it, so you can make sure that the enemies aren't really able to deny those range creeps. So you won't really need a support like Winter Wyvern or CM, like I mentioned, how you probably want one of those supports if you're Drow. Coming in at number 1 on my list of top 5 carries for patch 7.19 would be Weaver, as he has a very low cooldown, somewhat high damage nuke in his Sakuchi to help him secure the range creeps in lane. And even if you are against a very hard, aggressive dual lane, you should be able to farm always on Weaver, as your Sakuchi can be used to CS. So even if you're getting sort of zoned, you can Sakuchi, run up, get a last hit or 2 with it, and then run back away until it's back up again, and just repeat. So he's basically always guaranteed to get some farm. And like I mentioned, how you don't want a hero that scales that hard, Weaver can scale pretty hard, while also being not too item reliant. So with 1 or 2 items, you can deal a ton of damage, and you won't really need to be 6 slotted or anything to deal damage in fights on Weaver, and you won't really need to be taking up too much space from your other cores like a TA or a Storm who's very reliant on farming your team's jungle. Weaver can constantly show in lanes and push out lanes very safely with his Sakuchi and his time lapse. So he's not really taking up any of the safe farm on the map. He can constantly be taking the risky farm very safely, which makes him that much stronger as a sort of 2 position with a carry mid. Well, also, if your mid laner is having a rough start, you can make space for them and potentially just carry the game without them, especially if you have one of those more classic heroes like a Puck or a Quap, sort of like I mentioned. They can sort of make space for you, and then you can still play as the true 1 position on Weaver. So you can play very nicely as the 1, very nicely as the 2, and also will get a decent amount of farm in lane generally. That's why I have Weaver as my number 1 carry for this patch, but some honorable mentions I have would be Necrophos, and before TI, I would have probably put Necrophos at number 5 and have left the rest the same, but I think that Spectre is just sort of better than him now. He does have a decent nuke in his Q to help him secure range creeps in lane and deal harassment while also sustaining, similarly to how I mentioned Bloodseeker can sustain with his Q as well. But generally, he's just not that mobile and doesn't scale as well as some of these other heroes, and I think his laning's a little bit weaker, even though he's pretty hard to kill. His damage is quite low, his attack is quite slow, and you're basically going to be reliant on that Death Pulse to help you secure those creeps. Another honorable mention would be Clinks, as he's good against some of the meta heroes like Wraith King and Venge, both being played in the 3 and 4 roles this patch. And if you aren't aware, generally the 3 and the 4 are the heroes that start in the off lane. So if you are playing the safe lane, these are the heroes you might be laning against, would be Venge and Wraith King. And the reason Clinks is decent against both of those would be with his strafe, you can dodge their projectile stuns. So if you see their stun animation or you see the stun flying out, you can actually use your strafe and then you won't get stunned by those abilities. Obviously, their cooldowns are going to be lower than Strafe, but it's still a pretty effective way to help you survive the lane, whereas other heroes wouldn't really have that ability. Another note that I was thinking about mentioning, but I wasn't sure, but I guess I'll mention it now too, is that Weaver can sort of dodge some of these abilities with his Sakuchi as well. But Clinkz is just more effective as it can't be countered by sentry wards or anything like that. You just click Strafe, and if any stuns get thrown at you in the next 3.5 seconds, assuming they're projectile-based stun, like Venges and Wraith Kings, they will not land. Another honorable mention for this patch would be PL, and the reason that I don't have him higher up is because he is not that strong in the lane, which is very important this patch, so you can oftentimes just get ran over and the enemies can snowball before you come online. But I do think he's one of the best scaling carries this patch, so if you are able to have a decent early game, say you do have those Crystal Maidens or Winter Wyverns to help you in the early game, and you can actually then scale into the mid and late game without the enemies sort of ending or taking too many objectives where you're too far behind and can't fight, I think PL is very strong if he has a good start. He's somewhat better than some of these other heroes as he can still show in lanes and pressure lanes. He can basically kill the range creep instantly once he has his Spirit Lance maxed out, and even without it, he can Phantom Rush to the range creeps and basically kill them in 2 hits, applying pressure to the wave and pushing it towards the enemy side of the map. And he can oftentimes leave the lane after attacking a few creeps and getting a few illusions to finish off killing the wave and pushing it out for him. And he can recover decently in the jungle, but jungling is so bad this patch that that's why I have him lower than the other heroes, and that's why he's only an honorable mention. But in a way, it's still a good mechanic to sort of have on the hero, is if you do have a bad start, you can recover in the jungle. But right now, you'd way rather play like a Weaver and be able to just constantly show in lanes and not really have to recover in the jungle. Just do decent in the lane and then be able to constantly push out lanes really safely with abilities like Sakuchi and Time Lapse, whereas PL doesn't really have the same ability to do that. And that's why I just have him at an honorable mention. But if you are given a good start, I'd put him up there with the Weavers and Ursas this patch. But with that said, this is my list of the top 5 carries for patch 7.19. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck in your pubs.